Hi there, my name is Fejka, and today I will be discussing childhood obesity. The Surgeon General has commented that if things continue, this could be the first generation to live shorter than their parents. Today I will be going through my presentation on childhood obesity with an outline shown here. During today's presentation, I will also be providing background commentary that is not on the slide that speaks to the significance and provides added context to the issues. The graph on the right shows body mass index by age group with the respective target levels. Green is good, yellow above means overweight, and red is obese. The dark yellow below the green relates to underweight. Obesity contributes to an estimated 112,000 preventable deaths. It's a national epidemic that 1 in 3 children ages 2 through 19 are affected by. It occurs when a child is well above the normal weight for his or her age and height. The diagnosis cutoff, according to CDC, is for a BMI between 85 and 95%, they are overweight, and above 95%, they are obese. Body mass index is a measure of body fat based on your weight in relation to your height. In children, it is interpreted relative to a child's age and gender. It does not measure body fat directly, but BMI is a reasonable indicator. Children below the 5th percentile are considered underweight. Childhood obesity is extremely costly. Eating healthy and being healthy is not cheap, which is part of the root issue. But it is worth the investment when you look at the medical costs and the long-term issues. As an obese 4-year-old has a 20% chance of becoming an obese adult, whereas an obese teen has up to an 80% chance of becoming an obese adult. Childhood obesity is now the #1 health concern among parents today. Diet, lack of exercise, family factors, physiological factors, socioeconomic factors, like the area they live in that has no access to grocery stores, so people end up buying foods that don't spoil, like frozen foods, crackers, cookies, or low-income places where there is nowhere safe to exercise, are all major contributors to obesity. Common symptoms include diabetes, which is a chronic condition that affects the way the body uses sugar. Metabolic syndrome, it's a cluster of diseases that can put a child at risk for heart disease and diabetes. Sleep disorder, where the child's breathing repeatedly stops and starts when they sleep. And bone joint problems. Non-fatty liver disease, this has no symptoms, but it can lead to scarring and liver damage that lasts throughout their life. Early puberty or menstruation, it creates a hormone imbalance. Behavior and learning problems, which contribute to more anxiety and poorer social skills, which may lead to the child acting out and disrupting or socially withdrawing from others. And lastly, depression, which causes overwhelming feelings of hopelessness that their lives won't improve, and they may sleep more and cry a lot. Society today has a multitude of risk factors that make becoming obese easier than ever. These include high-calorie, good-tasting, and inexpensive foods that have become widely available and are heavily advertised. Fast food being the most common example. Portion sizes have increased, and we are eating out more frequently. Our children drink more sugar-sweetened beverages than they did in the past, and they are drinking fewer beverages such as water or low or non-fat milk that are healthier for growing minds and bodies. Similarly, the car-dependent design of our community has made it much harder for our children to walk to school, and much harder for us to shop and do other errands entirely on foot or bicycle. On top of these changes, many of our nation's schools have cut back or eliminated recess and physical education programs. Sadly, the advancement in technology has led to less playing outside. Lastly, the rural low-income communities don't have access to nearly as many healthy stores. Shown here are the questions I decided to look at to see the issue and identify how it can be improved. Because of the seriousness of the issue, these questions are very common at the core of all surveys done regarding childhood obesity. Who is at risk? Which race? Where in the U.S. is most at risk? Are all common questions that help the national, state, and local levels, including the schools, to identify the issue and work to fight it and improve the results. The National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey is a cross-sectional, complex survey that includes both interview and examination components. A relatively small number of people were sampled and used in the results. This is a quality source that is used by many different places like the CDC and the Journal of American Medicine, and it is a study that is repeated every handful of years. I use the data for over time, by age group, by gender, by race, and by household education and income level. The National Survey of Children's Health was a much larger survey that was strictly telephone interview. This was also a quality data that many different studies and organizations used the data for. I use this data for the state maps, obesity by region, by race chart, and by household income education chart. As you can tell by the chart, things have only gotten worse over time. In 1970, Americans spent an estimated $6 billion on fast food by 2006. By 2006, they were spending nearly $142 billion. Prior to the mid-1970s, the only way to play a video game was to hitch a ride or walk to the closest arcade. In 2008, 38% of American homes had a video game console. By 2011, with smartphones, between 22 to 84% of kids under the age of 18 have cell phones, and almost all kids have access to a mobile device. Kids don't even have to get out of bed and walk to another room to channel their favorite video games. The average American will spend 4 to 5 hours in front of the screen per day. Many fill up on empty calories or food with no nutritional value, often high in fat, sodium, added sugars and calories, and low in nutrients. French fries are the most common vegetables children eat today. Portion size has also increased. 20 years ago, fries weighed 2.4 ounces. Today, 6.9. 20 years ago, a burger was 333 calories. Today, 590. Adolescents today eat on average 8% more than 30 years ago. The trend in the graph shows that the percent of children obese increases at older ages. Research suggests that extracurricular physical activity levels consistently decrease from elementary school to high school, especially in girls. Research also indicates that most adolescents do not participate in moderate physical activity 5 or more times per week, and these patterns persist into adulthood. As you can see here, this shows the trend of obesity by gender over time. Again, it's rather steady in the 1960s and 70s, and then a sharp takeoff to today. There is significant data to suggest that African Americans are more likely to be obese than their white peers. When you dig a little deeper at society trends, the numbers begin to make complete sense. Food advertising targets Black youth more aggressively. Children who live near parks and other green spaces are more physically active. Black communities have fewer chain supermarkets. Predominantly, minority and racially mixed neighborhoods had half as many supermarkets, limiting access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Also, there is a lack of safe places to play. Here, you can see the trends in obesity across the US over time. It is relatively unchanged in terms of what areas are most at risk. Kentucky high school students have the worst obesity rate in the US at 18%. Utah, the best, at 6.4%. The highest regional prevalence of obesity is consistently in the South. 7 of the 10 states with the highest obesity rates for ages 10 through 17 are in the South. 7 of the 10 states with the lowest obesity rates for ages 10 through 17 are in the West. Here, these graphs show that obesity is higher among lower income and lesser educated households. The higher cost of fresh produce and other nutritious foods is cited as one barrier to healthy eating for poorer families. Americans with limited economic resources simply can't afford to buy healthy foods, join health clubs, or participate in organized sports or physical activity programs. Studies have shown that as income increases, adults tend to eat healthier foods and increase in exercise more frequently. Here is another graph that shows the impact household education has on obesity. There were 10% more children who were obese with parents that did not finish high school than compared to those who had parents with a college degree. Shown here are limitations from the various sources. Getting people to volunteer information is one of the biggest issues with all studies. And this is particularly difficult with the N. Haynes study. Doing a telephone interview, which often increases the population size, has drawbacks because it's difficult because the people answering the phone are not experts on the topic. Also, some people choose to not answer the phone, or people just don't have phones. So the National Children's Survey was able to sample more people, but the validity of the data isn't as strong. Whereas the N. Haynes did a physical examination, but the number of people they interviewed was much smaller. After this study, we can conclude that the issue is not improving. It is only getting more difficult, and the issue needs to be targeted, and they need to focus on all ethnicities, not just minorities, where the issue is just where the prevalence is a little bit higher. As the individual becomes overweight, they become more expensive to the healthcare system. Obesity is more expensive to the healthcare system than smoking and problem drinking. And studies have shown that children that are healthy and have a normal weight have higher scholastic achievement, less absenteeism, and higher physical fitness levels. Some steps for success include that children need to be role models for their family. Studies have shown that obese parents pass this down to their children. It is recommended by the government 60 minutes of aerobic exercise each day. Currently, only 18% of grades 9 through 12 met this in 2007. They need to eat healthy, shop healthy, and exercise. Success depends on commitment. Parents with children that are obese need to be sensitive, praise their children's progress, talk about their feelings, be patient and positive. There are also treatment programs that work to add inches, not pounds, for the younger ones, and then look to remove a certain amount of weight, either by a per month or per week basis for the older children. Next steps include, as you can see, a dietary chart below on how much children should eat per day. Study has shown that a surplus of 3,500 calories results in 1 pound weight gain. So that means 100 to 165 calories surplus per day can result in gaining 10 pounds per year. We need to continue to educate the public to increase the awareness and properly train and diagnose the issue. Shown here are my references from the study. And I'd like to thank everybody for their time and awareness on this important issue.